All right, get started. Good morning. Today is March 6th. It's the 13th of Adar, the fast of Esther. Tonight begins Purim. We are at the end of chapter 44. The goal is to complete the chapter because the next 2 weeks I'll be in Israel and there won't be a class. So want to just jump in. And I also, those who were at the class on Shabbos, we gave a class on Purim. The Purim is an incredible mystical holiday that has so many mystical teachings and ideas behind every part of Purim. So I would encourage you to read. I'm gonna actually on Chabad.org. There's a lot of great teachings according to Kabbalah and Chassidus on Purim, and I encourage you, particular one, more or less what the class was about. I can put it on the WhatsApp later on. Let's jump in. We are on page 571, section 4, how to compensate for inauthentic love. So let's just quickly review what we learned last week. Last week we discussed the two types of love, the two types of ahava that a Jew ought to strive to have. We talked about what's called avat olam and ahavat rabba, or lower level of love and higher level of love. Lower level of love is love that gets developed via meditations. It means I use my das, I use my knowledge to get inspired by understanding the greatness of Hashem through the greatness of the universe, or Hashem has created me and has a relationship with me. Hashem gives me all the blessings. Those ideas develop a love for Hashem versus a high level of love, which is kind of the unconditional love or a selfless love, where it's not a love that was based on the knowledge of the greatness of Hashem, but it's a pure love of loving Hashem, which is not a rational love, but it's more like a soul love, where the soul, by the very nature of being alive, loves Hashem. Just like we love ourselves, the fact that we are alive, a person loves to be alive, a person doesn't want to die, a person loves life. That's not something they have to contemplate. And if they do, that's not a problem. But a healthy person does not. So when we are talking about the love for Hashem that's pure, that comes pure from the soul, it's like the love of, that's love is so intense that we are willing to do anything for Hashem, not even if it doesn't make sense. And it gives the analogy of a love of a child to a parent. That the child would loves a parent in a sense more than himself, to be ready to do things for them that would be inconvenient, or it's they're not in the mood, but because the love is so essential and so deep, we do it anyways. Now, in essence, he said that this type of love, to explore or to reveal that intense love for Hashem, that is such a natural love that comes from the soul, is really a level of a tzaddik, meaning on the conscious level, it's a very high level. We should rather work on the meditation, on the love that are based on meditations. And we gave several meditations last week to have to contemplate how Hashem is the source of life. Those things naturally help us to get our love closer to Hashem. But when it comes to the intense soul love of this high level of love, it's really only something a tzaddik can reach. However, he said in last week at the end that we should know it is not something that we should not entertain. Absolutely, we should entertain, because in essence, we all have it within us. How so? Based on the teaching that we all have a spark of Moses within us. We have a spark of Moshe. That means we have a spark of a tzaddik within us. But by the very notion that we have it, it means that it's there. Now, what's going to say in the next part of last part of this chapter, and this is really key, I think that brings out a whole stronger dimension how we can practically apply this love. So let me ask you a question. If you have that intense love for Hashem, the tzaddik, how does the tzaddik express that love? How does the tzaddik express that love?
Learning all the mitzvahs.
By doing mitzvot.
Exactly, to doing mitzvot. Why? Because that's what Hashem wants us to do. If it comes to a love that is self-oriented, right? I understand and I feel the greatness of Hashem. Then my love is strong, and I want to express it kind of on my terms. How much intensity of my meditation or my spiritual feeling I have towards Hashem, I'm ready to give Hashem what I can offer, what I can understand, what I can feel. For a tzaddik, it's no longer about his feeling or about his understanding. It's beyond that. It's completely selfless. What's the greatest way to express the selfless love? By doing what Hashem wants us to do. Just like a child to a parent. A child can decide, my relation with my parents is based on my terms. So I'll give my parents when I'm in the mood, when I'm happy, when I actually do care about them, when we're on good terms. Then I'll do the stuff that I'm going to give them nice little presents here and there. It's my expression. Versus a child who loves his parents much deeper than that and puts themselves completely on the side, they will do anything that the parent wants to do. That's a much stronger expression of the true inner love that transcends the idea of what we call avat olam, the more limited love. Story in the Talmud of a great sage who his father asked him, his father wasn't well, his father asked him for a drink of water. So he went to get the drink of water. When he came back, his father fell asleep. So the sage stood next to his father and waited for him to wake up, so he should be ready to give him the drink right away. Took him over an hour to wake up. But for an hour, the sage stood there ready to give the father the drink. Now, if the sage, what does the sage want to be busy with? Study Torah, right? Sage wants to study Torah, wants to develop, continue to learn, enjoy the Torah. In that hour, he could have studied Torah a lot better by going back into yeshiva and let somebody call him when the father's ready to drink. But he saw the love for his father was so much stronger. In addition that it's a mitzvah, but standing there for an hour, of course, he probably did study Torah by heart, whatever it was, but it was an expression that it wasn't about him, it was totally about his father. So here's the key, really. Yes, it is very difficult for a Beinoni to access that type of intense love, like we spoke of the love at night, where you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep because you have to learn Torah. You're so in love with Hashem. Very hard to have that intense love. But we have it within our soul. It's not so conscious. But the expression of it, I can do regardless. What's the expression? It's the mitzvah. So I can do the mitzvah without that intense feeling like the tzaddik. So in other words, I have the love within me, that great love. I have a very difficult time because I'm not a tzaddik to actually access that intense feeling. However, I can go to the end result, which is the expression of that intense feeling, which is the performance of the mitzvah, performance what Hashem wants me to do. That I can do. I can do it in the same way. Because what is it all about? It's not about me. It's doing what Hashem wants me to do. So I can put myself away, can put myself on the side and say, just do it. I'll do the mitzvah. By that, I'm expressing that intense love for Hashem. So it's the beauty of not being kind of expecting to be the tzaddik, but however, I have the ability to actually do exactly what the tzaddik is doing himself. Now you're going to say it's not so authentic. The tzaddik really means it, doing it with a complete love, selfless dedication. Here it's like, okay, I'm just jumping kind of from point A, right? My inner love that I can't access really, to point B, to the expression of that inner love that I can access. No, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, what counts is the connection. Let's read over in continue here in text 571. And then you said also it's a matter of training ourselves, right? We said at the very end, consistency, habit makes it second nature. So we have to continue consistent, do the mitzvah. So although maybe I'm not in the mood, I'm not the tzaddik, but the bottom line is I am accessing this intense activity of connecting to Hashem. Section 4, how to compensate for inauthentic love. In section 3, the Tanya has taught that number 1, everyone is capable of attaining an utterly selfless level of love for God, like a son who exerts himself for his father and mother, whom he loves more than himself. Number 2, we're all capable of this because selfless love is already present latently in our souls, and we just need to find it and help it to surface. Number 3, the key to doing this is meditation on the idea that as a child of God, you love God more than you love yourself. And number 4, this meditation should be done repeatedly so that habit will become second nature. And it should be done verbally and audibly, since audible vocalization stimulates concentration. So let's presume you're following the Tanya's advice, right? You're trying to develop, uncover the feeling that you love God more than yourself. You recited the meditation verbally so many times that you're beginning to become convinced. But are you really? Have you begun to love God more than yourself? Or are you just being delusional? That's the last part I didn't mention in our recap, right? That you should meditate, that you are a child of Hashem, and that you have that love within you, and I love Hashem regardless, and I love Hashem selflessly. And say it to yourself, and say it, Moda'ani, Shema Yisrael, V'ahavto, everything you say, keep saying it, because you're not just lip service, you're saying something you have inside, but you have maybe a hard time getting to it. But as you're going to say more and more, habit becomes second nature. So you have that intense love. But maybe it's not real. Maybe you're just being delusional. He's saying, and even if this seems at first that merely by training yourself to think and feel this way, you're deluding yourself, do not worry. That is not true, because the selfless love itself, as it exists latently in your heart, is absolutely authentic. Right? The love is there, is true, is authentic. Even if the conscious expression of your selfless love lacks a certain level of authenticity, that shouldn't discourage your efforts. Whatever you're feeling is anchored in and flows from something authentic. But you might still ask, your subconscious inherent love is already authentic without any meditation. And so if your conscious love is inauthentic, then why bother to produce it at all? Just leave your authentic love intact in the recess of your soul. So in other words, don't damage it. And the question is now like this. If I have this authentic love inside of my soul that really I cannot access, right? But at least I should meditate. I have it. Even though I can't access it, tell yourself that you really have it. And the fact that you're telling yourself you have it, that helps you to know that I have this intense, strong love. Although that the access of it is not necessarily happening, because on consciousness you are too coarse, you're not a tzaddik to access it. So maybe I shouldn't even bother to access it. Leave the love the way it's deep in my soul alone. That's good. I know I have it. I'm not going to deal with that. Let me just deal with the lower level of love. So in other words, what's the value? Why bother to produce something that you can't really produce? Only the fact that you know that you have it. All right. Are we following everyone? What's going on here? You have something that is almost impossible to actually come on a conscious level to access it. But because you have it, you should at least know that you have it. And knowing that you have it helps me to understand that I'm not such a shmedrik. I have a powerful soul within me. And that powerful soul loves Hashem. And because that powerful loves Hashem, okay, I can accept that I'll do something. It's almost like also some people have a hard time loving their parents. Think about it, right? You know that inherently everyone loves their parents. Most people, right? They love their parents generically, whatever the word is, right? So what is it? What comes in the way? It is the external factors that have built up, right? Issues in the relationship that have built up, or maybe I wasn't true to myself, I wasn't true to them, or I'm too busy with my career. These external factors that puts me away from actually activating or living moment by moment with this intense natural love that I have for my parents. So it's kind of like we all have that balance, right? I can be very upset about my parents, or I can be upset about my child, but deep inside, I love my child, I love my parents deep inside, right? You have a choice to do. Do you live your life by what's on the outside, or do you live your life what's in the inside? Can you put it away on the side, all the external factors, the true, legitimate factors, legitimate complaints, legitimate issues, but can you access and just reveal the inner core that connects you between you and your parents? Very difficult for people, because we have a strong ego, we have a strong evil inclination, and our parents also have it. So it goes both ways, right? It's a good analogy, but it's not the perfect analogy, because Hashem has no ego, right? And it's not so much that we're upset with Hashem, it's just like it's beyond ourselves. But naturally, a soul loves Hashem. But I don't live this way. I live in 2023. I'm busy with the stock market. I'm busy with the politics. I'm busy with my community. I'm busy with my bank, busy with my workers and all. So which is the true life? Just this lip service. Lip service, yeah, true life. I love Hashem, I love Hashem, I love Hashem. So he's saying, so this is the answer I said earlier. What's the answer? Don't get too caught up on the process. If you know it, you have it. Point A. Point B will be the process, how to reveal the internal love we have for Hashem, right? What's point C? What's the goal? The mitzvah, to express it. Don't get too caught up on the point B. You know you have point A, and go to point C, which is do the mitzvah. Because then you're really doing what your core soul really wants to do, even if you can't feel it. Back to our analogy of a parent, right? I can be upset about my parent, but yet I'm still going to do it. Still going to go and visit them. Still going to go give them whatever they need. So I put myself aside. Not that the issues have disappeared. They're still going to be and still going to bother me because I'm not a tzaddik. But I'm still going to do that because that expresses the deep love that I have. So only there's a value. Let's continue that. Only there's a value in bringing the love out of its latent state to be palpable, even if the results are dubious authenticity. But that the palpable love can have a practical application, which is the observance of Torah and mitzvot. We've learned your Torah mitzvahs cannot fly heavenward unless they have two wings of reverence and love of God. So even if the love you generate using the above meditation is lacking in authenticity, still a very worthwhile exercise, because the palpable love will elevate the mitzvahs you perform to heaven. But again, we may ask, so at the end of the day, do the mitzvah, why? Because even if it's not fully genuine that you'll do the mitzvah because you deeply love Hashem, because you don't feel the love for Hashem so much, but the actual mitzvah is, through the meditation, is what my deep soul wants to do. My deep soul wants to express its love through the mitzvah. So if I do that, even if I don't feel it, it considers a wing of the mitzvah that elevates this mitzvah. But again, we might ask, how could an inauthentic love be an effective wing to lift your mitzvah heavenward? Why is it an inauthentic love? Because I don't feel it. I'm not a tzaddik. I know I have it, but I don't feel it. Love is an emotion. So how can an inauthentic love lift the mitzvah? We said the mitzvah needs to have wings. Wings is the love. I don't feel it, the love. I just do it because I know I have to do it. or because my soul wants it to do it? The answer to this question, Tanya will now draw on the idea we learned earlier, chapter 16. Since God is aware of the limitations holding you back from producing authentic emotions through meditation, Hashem knows that we have limitation. Why? He's the fault. He gave us the limitation, right? He gave us what? He gave us an animal soul. So if we do it anyways, he will assist your mitzvah to develop the necessary wings from the imperfect results of your meditation, so long as you have made some effort and you have the appropriate intention. So as long as you try, you make an effort to get a little bit of that love. Although we're not going to be fully there, Hashem will come to your assistance. Practically speaking, you study and practice mitzvot with the selfless intention to give God a feeling of satisfaction, and not for any personal gain, physical or spiritual, like a son serving his father. And even if that's just your intention, and you don't really feel it authentically, our sages taught that in such a case, a blessed Holy One attaches a good thoughts to the deed, accepting your attention in the place of real feeling. And your mitzvahs performed with this intention will have wings to fly heavenward, as mentioned above in chapter 6. This is a beautiful, beautiful idea. A beautiful thought, and it's a very well-known idea in Torah and Talmud. And you see it in the Hebrew on page 572, the second last line. So 5 important words. Machshava, what's machshava? Machshava means a thought. A thought. Tova is good. A good thought. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, metzafa l'maisa. He adds it as considers it as an action. That means as follows: whatever I have in good intention, I have the right intention, but practically I couldn't do it. Let's say a mitzvah. A mitzvah, we have to go do everything possible to fulfill every mitzvah in the Torah, right? Every mitzvah. But sometimes you do everything you can, and the end result is you didn't do the mitzvah. You could not get the mitzvah done. So we're not talking about somebody who is lazy. We're not talking somebody who is looking for a way out. Oh, let me have the intention to do the mitzvah. Okay, today I must put on tefillin, right? Okay, it's a mitzvah. Hashem wants me to put on tefillin. All right, I'm not in the mood of tefillin today. Let me just think about tefillin. Okay, Hashem, I love you. It's like I'm having tefillin on me. No, that's not what it means. It means that you woke up in the morning, for example, right? And you had an emergency. Somebody had to go to the hospital, God forbid. You wanted to daven in the morning. You want to put daven in the morning. Look, it's not such a good analogy because then you're exempt from doing it. But in the sense, you were not exempt from doing it. But you really, really tried hard. And at the end of the day, it didn't come to fruition. You really wanted to do it. Because you want to do it, but why? Because I love Hashem, I want to do the mitzvah. It ended up being that it didn't, not beyond your control, it didn't work out. That's a better one. Beyond your control, it didn't work out. Not an emergency, life and death, but that supersedes the mitzvah. It's like Shabbos, you can break Shabbos. But beyond your control, you're going to make it, right? If you did everything you can, machshava tova, that intention, Hashem considered as if you have done the action. Why? Again, because it's about doing Hashem's will. So now he's saying that same applies regarding your love. You're trying really hard to access this love that you have, that soul love, that high level of love that the tzaddik has. You have it in his soul, but you know you can never really get to the real depth of it, to the real essence of it, because you're not a tzaddik. But I'll try. At least I'll try, and I want to access it. And I not only want to access it, I'm actually doing the mitzvah because I love Hashem, even though it's not feeling it like the tzaddik. Hashem, so you can think it's like an inauthentic love. Hashem, machshava tova, shpoch, mitzvah l'maisa. Hashem attributes as a mitzvah itself. Continue reading a bit. 573, second paragraph. So divine grace, your selfless intention, is considered by God as if you had selfless love. That's because in your soul, you really do have selfless love. And your difficulty has been in expressing it consciously. Since you made an effort to do so, God attaches the good thoughts to the deed and attributes your deed, mitzvah, as if it was performed with the selfless love you intended in your thought. This act of divine grace makes your meditative effort worthwhile, even if the results are somewhat inauthentic. What exactly constitutes a selfless intention when observing a mitzvah? So above the Tanya stated is to give God a feeling of satisfaction. We'll now clarify this idea further. This is a beautiful, again, a beautiful connection, like the love of a child to a parent. What's the greatest thing a child wants? It wants to give nachas, right? It wants to give gratification. It wants to give satisfaction to the parents. As even it's little children, we know that. More than they want us to give them necessarily the candy, they want to have the feeling that we are happy with them. They want to know, they're giving us satisfaction. So think about it. Do you ever do a mitzvah? You ever thought about this? When you do a mitzvah, that you're giving satisfaction to Hashem? We don't teach it that way, right? We say, you got to do the mitzvah. Got to do it. Do it out of fear, out of love, even love, right? What does love have to do with this? No, what is love? Most time love is self-oriented. I love Hashem. I want to express my love, right? It's like giving a gift. People want to give a gift. You want to express your love by giving a gift. I give a gift to Hashem. But it's more than that. It's not just about the gift. I want to give Hashem the satisfaction. Oh, so that's giving God's feeling of satisfaction. What is that? So I was going to take that apart. What does it mean, a feeling of satisfaction? And the feeling of satisfaction God receives can be understood in two ways. A, it's like the early example of the king's joy from his son returning after being released from prison. Or B, it may be divine satisfaction from the idea mentioned earlier that the Blessed Holy One desired to have a home for himself in the lowest realms, just as he has in the higher realms. The divine will fulfilled by both these two dynamic together, lifting the world up to God and B, drawing the divine down into the world. So therefore, the Tanya mentions both intentions here. A, you observe a mitzvah, the divine spark trapped down here in this world is released back up to God, giving him great pleasure, like the return of a child from captivity. And B, but the mitzvah also has another effect of drawing down the divine here in this lowly world through sanctifying the physical and making a home for God in the lowest realms. So what's the joy? What's the satisfaction we're giving Hashem? A, we are releasing that spark of Hashem that has been trapped down here. We talked about this in the beginning of Tanya. And everything in this world is a spark of Hashem. But us making a blessing, a mitzvah, we're releasing that spark that's like coming back home. It's like that satisfaction of a parent or a king where the child was taken into prison and it gets released. That's the idea of Rosh Hashanah, by the way. Rosh Hashanah is a holiday, it's a celebration, right? We blow the shofar, we eat. It's a day of judgment. Why are you so happy? You know who's happy Rosh Hashanah? Hashem is happy. Hashem's the happiest it can be on Rosh Hashanah because we're coming back. With that child who has been away, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, we're coming back. Doing tshuva, we're coming back. It's not about fear and awe and strictness. It's about the tremendous celebration of joy that's expressed later on in Sukkot and Pesach. and being. And that's kind of the satisfaction of Hashem is expressed. That Hashem draws down his presence in this world. He wants a home here. So let's continue. Section 5, from your lips to your heart. So far in this chapter, we have learned meditation to attain 2 types of love. In section 2, we learned to long for God just as we long for our own lives. The love hinted by the verse, "May my soul, nafshi, right? I have desired you at night." In section 3, we encountered a greater, more expansive, selfless love, like a son who exerts himself for his father and mother, whom he loves more than himself. Section 4 continued to clarify difficulties we might have with the meditation of section 3, aimed at producing selfless love. So even if the result is of dubious authenticity, it's not real. Tanya assured us we ought to persist because God will compensate for our shortcomings and attach a good thought to the deed. Here in section 5, we revisit the lower love of section 2, self-oriented love. My soul, I have desired you at night. That was the lower level, which is self-oriented, which means I'm thirsty for Hashem. When I say I'm thirsty for Hashem, then Hashem's being is really that I need Hashem's connection because that gives me satisfaction. Do you see what just happened? I want to connect to Hashem because that gives me satisfaction. In the higher level of love, it's not about me. I want to give Hashem because it gives Hashem satisfaction. Here, we're turning back to the lower level of love, which comes from, again, it comes from meditating about how much Hashem gives me, how much Hashem is such an amazing creator. Hashem is the greatest thing that ever happened. And I have this relationship and I yearn, and me being connected gives me satisfaction, but still a me factor here. The Tanya will first address a practical question. In sections 3, we learned that in addition to mindful meditation, we should employ the practical technique of accustoming your mouth with audible vocalization that stimulates concentration until habit will become second nature. This was thought in reverence to the higher level of selfless love, but could it be used also for the lower level of self-oriented love? Thought in section 2. In other words, we use the idea of habit becoming second nature of that when we're talking about the higher level of love, not the love that is self-oriented, the more the love that is completely oriented towards Hashem. The question is, can that applied also about the self-oriented love to continue to verbalize until it becomes second nature? Because even that takes work. Even that type of love takes work. I can get inspired by the grace of Hashem when I walk out, when I actually think about the grace of Hashem, right? And that's why in davening, in the prayer, majority of the beginning of the prayer, Psukkah the Zimra, we talked about it a few weeks ago, right? The verses of praises focuses on Hashem's greatness. All the Psalms focus on Hashem's greatness that stimulates this love for Hashem. So, and again, it's about talking about it. But what happens if I'm not in the mood of davening, or I'm not in the mood of doing this meditation? Should I still do it? Should I still verbalize it? So maybe that becomes second nature. And that can help when it becomes second nature, that this is the way of life. But even the lower level of more self-oriented love mentioned above in section 2, I have desired you at night, where you long for God because He is the source of your life, is very much within reach for you. Meaning, it's practically possible to bring this love out from its latent state to be palpable through training yourself constantly with your mouth and heart consistent. Since, as we have explained, this love is already latent in your soul. The higher level's love is hidden in your soul. This is already exists within you. You can use the practical method of section 3 habitual verbalization, even for the lowest self-oriented love, taught in section 2, you simply have to be training yourself constantly with your mouth and heart consistent. At first glance, this would seem to be not surprised. If habitual verbalization is effective as bringing even a higher selfless love to consciousness, shouldn't it obviously be effective for lower self-oriented love? It's it's like in a relationship, right? It's like this couple who comes to the marriage counselor, and she tells the marriage counselor, "We're married for 20 years, and he never tells me I love you. Never tells me I love you." So he turns to her and says, "Honey, I told you when we got married, I love you until I tell you I no longer love you." So, so on the flip side, right? The more you say I love you to your spouse, every time I say it, and it becomes so routine. I love you, I love you, I love you, children, I love you. Today, everybody's saying I love you to everybody, right? It's coming to everyone. It's so this there's what we call there's advantage of like verbalization makes it a habit, but the drawback is that it becomes, in a sense, just talk. Do you actually mean what he's saying? So what he's trying to basically saying, implying, when you have in any situation, in any relationship, the person has a hard time, we all know, the more you verbalize it, the better it will get. Let's say you have a hard time in your marriage or with your child. Try to say I love you even if it's hard for you. Even if maybe you don't mean it 100%. Why? Because when you say it, it creates a feeling, and that also for the recipient creates a feeling. So that will enhance the love. That's what kind of the idea was of this higher level of love towards Hashem. I cannot necessarily access this deep soul love, but say it, saying or doing, right? Torah, mitzvahs, prayer makes it happen. So for sure, basically saying here, from the lower level love, which is the level of love that comes through meditation. And that's where davening comes in a sense, right? Should I pray when I'm not in the mood of praying? Should I articulate saying Hashem, you're great, Adon Olam Hashem Malach, when I'm not in the mood of saying it, when I don't feel for it? So he said, for sure say it. Because when you say it every day, obviously be careful, it shouldn't become like, oh, now it's becoming like a robot, he's saying like a robot, and that's really consistency. We all know that, right? Consistency with anything makes it real. Otherwise, when you're gonna wait till you're in the mood to say Hashem, I love you, Adon Olam Hashem Malach, it'll happen on Yom Kippur, it'll happen once a year when you're forced to go because they have judgment, right? So what's the big deal? The first glance, this would seem to be no surprise. Continue, second last paragraph, 574. If habitual verbalization is effective at bringing even a higher love to consciousness, shouldn't be obvious, be effective for a lower self-oriented love. So saying, surprisingly, that's not the case. Generally speaking, this is amazing. The lower love to achieve because it's more relatable. I desire and crave for you like a person desires his own life and soul when he's weak and exhausted. You know what it feels like to desire energy when you're weak and exhausted. So you try to feel the same hunger for God. But it's because the power of this meditation lies in the relatability that habitual verbalization is less effective. Either you're going to relate to this idea or you will not. Repeating it yourself 1,000 times won't seem to help that much. In other words, if it's impossible for you to access it, then go and access it. Don't just verbalize it. Verbalize it will make it worse. If something that you cannot access, but verbalizing at least gives you a little connection to it, do it. So he's saying, but he just said, do it anyways, even in the lower level. So what does he answer? Let's continue. The higher selfless love, on the other hand, is more of an acquired taste a subtle, initially counterintuitive idea, which you will begin to resonate deeply only through repeated exposure. And that's why habitual verbalization is an excellent practical method for the higher selfless type of love. Nevertheless, Tanya suggests here that training yourself constantly with your mouth and heart, consistent, i.e. habitual verbalization, can be effective even for the lower level of more self-oriented love. Why? Because ultimately, we're speaking of a feeling that you have already in your soul, and since you only have to bring it out from its latent state to be palpable, habitual verbalization can be effective even if it takes a little more persistence. But if you're not able to bring even the lower level of semi-oriented love to palpable expression in your heart through persistent meditation and habitual verbalization, at least do the following. The failure of meditation here is okay. So basically, the answer is you have it inside of you. You can bring it out. It's latent, meaning it's conscious there. You can bring it out, and the more you're going to speak about it, even it becomes what's called habitual verbalization, right? Just speaking about it, but because it's right there, it will be very effective. And you know that, for example, by saying Baruch Hashem, right? Somebody asks you, how are you? You say Baruch Hashem. It becomes a practice. It becomes like a routine. Sometimes you say Baruch Hashem, you don't even think what are you saying. But what happens most of the time, I think it's a good example, is that even if I don't think about it, I know that I believe it. Why? Because I keep saying Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem is in my mouth work. I keep saying it 100 times a day. So even if I say it and I don't think about it, it helps me because it keeps reminding what is truly here. And even if I don't right now think about it, the next time around I think about it. Because I spoke about it last time without intention, so to speak. But he's saying now, he's asking, what happens to you? So verstopft. Somebody is so verstopft. In Yiddish, verstopft means he's so clogged that he cannot even access this lower level of love to express. You know, we're saying if you have a hard time expressing the love to Hashem, speak about it, talk about it. But you have a hard time doing that itself. What should he do? The failure of meditation here is more severe than the failure to reach higher selfless love. In section 4, your meditation did produce some strong feeling for God, but your concern was that those feelings lacked authenticity. Here, however, you're not able to bring it to palpable expression in your heart. You fail to generate any feeling of love for God. So what should you do? Nevertheless, you can still observe Torah mitzvot with sufficient authenticity to enable your worship to fly heavenward. So at the very least, picturing this love mentally in your mind, causing your mitzvah to be propelled heavenward with a wing of love, since the Blessed Holy One attaches your good thoughts to the deed. If your meditation fails to generate any feeling in your heart, then at the very least, picture the love of God in your mind, and God will attach a good thought to the deed, considering your mitzvah to have been observed with love. So, very powerful to never ever give up on a mitzvah. In other words, you want to say to yourself, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I'm not capable of meditations. So if I do the mitzvah, it's a fraud. I'm not there. And if I do it, it's a mitzvah, but it's no wings, there's no love attached. He says, do the minimum. What's the minimum? Nothing, no major meditation. Picture there's love mentally in your mind. What does that mean? Well, I mean, picture the love in your. It goes back a little bit, beginning of Tanya, where there's right, where there's seichel, there's chachma bin das, and there's emotions, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to go through das to activate our emotions. Who's there? I'm in class, yeah? No. No. So the whole of Tanya is all the heart, the mind controls the heart. You want to get to the heart to activate a love and fear and awe for Hashem, and then do the mitzvah properly. And even if it's not fully done, do it anyways, right? Do it anyways. Use meditations, use that meditation, use all the different meditations till you get to some type of love and fear for Hashem. You're saying with nothing else, nothing really works. So then use your brain for a moment. I know that's hard for people. At least picture. We can all picture. It goes back to the power of imaginations, right? Every human has the ability to imagine something, right? You go to the gas station, you buy a lottery ticket, right? Most people are then in an imagination mode. Why? Because you're buying a lottery ticket and you're imagining when you win that money, what's going to happen to you, right? Until you look at the numbers and that imagination disappears. But most people buy the lottery ticket because they enjoy that imagination. They know they're losing. They know there's no chance I'll win the Super Bowl, right? Whatever it's called, the power. Somebody on the Chabad chat, in the Shluchim, we have a big chat, said the shliach in the most hick town should go to the gas station and somewhere in the middle of the woods and buy the lottery ticket. It's always somebody in hick town that wins the lottery. Nobody in the big cities wins the big lottery, right?
We always hope.
Huh?
We always hope.
You always hope. But that's a little bit what he's saying at the end. Do the mitzvah. You know that the mitzvah is a count. Do the mitzvah, and the moment you do the mitzvah, just think for a moment that there's a love for Hashem. If you feel it, you don't feel it, you understand, don't understand, doesn't matter. At the very least, try to do that. So then the question is, it's like Talmud going back and forth. So how much, if we talk about love needs to elevate the mitzvah, it's the wing of the mitzvah. You're going to just imagine for a second to picture Hashem's love for the mitzvah, and that's what you're doing it. How much worth of this love is it really? How high can this love lift your mitzvah? I'm going to stop here because I want to continue, but as I said, it's a fast. It's a little hard to continue reading, but I really would love for everyone to finish reading till the end of the chapter. And when I come back in 2 weeks' time, we can start chapter 45 because getting back into it's going to take a lot of meditations. So read it for yourself till the end.
Till the end of 44, right?
Yeah, end of 44. It's not a 4 or 5 pages.
Okay.
It's good start, and it's almost self-explanatory, anyways. But as we know, if we can take a few lines here and a few lines there and incorporate it in our day-to-day service, sometimes being thrown into the ocean is how you learn to swim, right? So I feel like these chapters, like you're being thrown into this vast oceans of different levels of love and fear and soul, and that it's very complex and what's going on here. You take a line that talks to you, do it. Read this chapter over and over again, and I just like with the love, right, that continues to grow and habitual verbalization, right? Sometimes just reading the chapter and then read it again, I can assure you, you're going to read it again or a third time, it's going to have a better meaning. It's going to resonate more and more. All righty. I don't want to use all my batteries for the day because I still have 7 hours of fasting. So it was great class. Who is the Zoom user? I'm going to stop the recording so you're not going to be recorded.